Well, salutations, fellow vidiots. Welcome back to yet another episode of that full moon madness, baby. Today we're going to be fucking with some Quilter's Irish Death, which seems like an appropriate choice of brew to accompany our film for this evening. And that is an absolute rental classic from my childhood. You guys know the drill by now. Our last movie was one I was less familiar with, so it stands to reason that this one's going to be one that I'm super familiar with. And that is, of course, Shrunken Heads. Used to rent the shit out of this as a kid. I think I mentioned it in the pickup video. I rented it so often that my parents kind of got pissed off. This was right there with Oblivion where that was concerned. And I still just absolutely loved the movie. Growing up, I always kind of held it right there with like Monster Squad and Little Monsters as far as being just super rad, like kid-friendly horror. And I still would kind of hold it up there to this day, just maybe not quite on the same level as those two gems, because it's not as good of a movie, but it still is a hell of a good time. Let's find out why. So this movie is basically an Elfman family affair. It was directed by Richard Elfman. It has a main theme by Danny Elfman himself, and it features Richard Elfman's son, Bodie Elfman, in a fairly prominent role as Booger Martin. It was produced by Charles Band. It was written by Matthew Bright. It's got additional music by Richard Band, cinematography by Stephen McNutt. It was edited by Charles Simmons, distributed by Paramount Home Video back in the glory days of early Full Moon, and it was released on May 1st of 1994. It stars Julius Harris in his last film role, as well as Meg Foster, Eric Egan, Rebecca Hurst, Bo Shannon, AJ D'Amato, and Darius Love. Basic gist of Shrunken Heads is this trio of nerd friends live in this neighborhood that's very reminiscent of Hell's Kitchen, if it's not in fact supposed to be Hell's Kitchen. And they're into comic books, superheroes, all that kind of stuff. Their main friend in the neighborhood is this old voodoo priest guy named Mr. Sumatra, who runs the local newsstand where they buy their comic books. This gang of local ruffians, called the Vipers, who work underneath this tough-as-nails lesbian mob boss named Big Mo, have taken a liking to fucking with these kids. They like bullying them, kind of pushing them around, generally making their life hell. These kids, being into superheroes and the like, decide that they should probably do something to fight back against these undesirables and clean up their neighborhood so they don't have to live in fear. So to that end, they hatch this plan to get them busted for stripping a car, and it goes off pretty well, but they boast a little too hard, so these guys know exactly who did it and are now out for blood, or at least a solid shit kicking to get back at them for getting them pinched. Unfortunately, Big Mo orders them to bring the kids in so she can like put a scare in them. The main kid, Tommy, though, is a bit of a fucking shit stirrer, and he wants to take this even further than they already have, so he ends up stealing all these gambling slips from Big Mo. Naturally, this pisses her off, and she straight up orders Vinny to go out there and gun him down, which him and the Vipers do end up doing. Mr. Sumatra, though, is quite pissed about this, and he was fond of these boys, so he decides to use his voodoo powers to resurrect them as these mystical shrunken heads that have these fantastical powers. Like Tommy can generate lightning. The one kid has vampire teeth, and the other one can just spit a fucking switchblade out of his mouth. They can also fly around and do sweet combo attacks, so they head out into the city after a sweet training montage and start taking on the malefactors, visiting justice upon the evildoers and having a fucking pretty good time doing it. Unfortunately, in the process of all this, before he died, Tommy had fallen for Vinny's girl, and he's still in love with her even though he's now just a disembodied shrunken head floating around. Apparently, she doesn't have too much of a problem with this, and those scenes where she lets him climb up the cleavage are some of the most hilarious scenes I've ever fucking seen in a movie, period. That aside, though, naturally the movie kind of leads us towards them getting revenge against the people who killed them and putting Big Mo in her place once and for all. I don't want to spoil too much of it for you, but this movie is an absolute fucking blast. I just love the entire gimmick and the entire vibe of the movie. I especially love the fact that everybody they kill, all these malefactors, get transformed into these zombies that perpetually shit their pants while being compelled to do good deeds. So they go around cleaning up graffiti and weeding gardens and that kind of shit. Absolutely hysterical. All the effects are handled pretty expertly. I mean, the shrunken heads flying around in their powers look pretty awesome. The miniatures that they use to do like the flying through the city sequences are absolutely amazing. Of course, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of Godzilla movies and stuff, so anytime I see dope miniatures in a movie, I'm gonna be stoked on it. The soundtrack, meaning the main theme by Danny Elfman and the additional score by Richard Band, are both fucking awesome. Definitely lends a cool quality to the movie. And everybody's performances are pretty great. Everybody that's campy is properly campy, and everybody that's really throwing down is really throwing down. Honorable mentions for sure to AJ D'Amato as Vinny and Meg Foster especially as Big Mo. She plays that mob boss so sleazy that honestly you'd have been hard pressed to find a dude to play the role and do it as greasy without it just taking you out of it, because you would have had to get one of those absolute fucking mainstays of mobster movies to do it and make it as good as Meg Foster did it. Absolutely slayed the role as Big Mo, and you could tell she was having a good time. Man, I don't know why I don't get this more often. It is fucking delicious. That Quilter's Irish Death, baby. 7.8 ABV, but it surely doesn't feel like it. It's got like that nice stoutness, but it's not overwhelmingly stout. I would wager that people that normally aren't fans of stout beer could take this down no problem. It's almost like refreshing enough. I'd say it's a good summertime beer to just drink if you want to get all sweaty while you mow your lawn. In any case, I just cannot say enough good stuff about Shrunken Heads. I fucking love the movie, if you guys can't tell. Just everything about it. Yeah, it's got that full moon camp element to it, which holds it back ever so slightly from being as good as The Monster Squad or Little Monsters. It's just not quite on that level. But it makes up for that with just loads of fucking charm, a banging soundtrack, and a really cool gimmick. And as I said, it is pretty family friendly. Yes, there's some foul language in it. There's a couple of, like, I guess, sexually suggestive moments, but in a light-hearted way. It doesn't get too raunchy with it or anything. You gotta think of it as like that stuff that's kind of in there for the adults. And the rest of it is in there for the kids. Most of it went over my head, and I didn't really notice the language growing up. So I would confidently say that you could watch this with your kids, and it wouldn't fuck them up too bad. So get out there and check it out. There is actually a remastered DVD that just came out, and I believe they do have a pretty nice Blu-ray as well. So I'll be upgrading eventually to probably both of those for the sake of completionism. This is definitely one of those movies I would like to own on every format it was ever released, because it's a childhood favorite and will continue to be a favorite in the Full Moon library for years to come. Forever. Never not gonna love this movie. It also got me super fucking fired up on listening to Oingo Boingo. Like, for some reason, I've just been listening to that band constantly for about 2 weeks now, and I can't fucking get enough of it. Pretty sure I'm gonna eventually collect all of their albums, at least on compact disc, if not on vinyl. Yeah, most people know the song No One Lives Forever from Texas Chainsaw 2, but I actually kind of like it in this movie a little bit better. And they do it as sort of a nod to Texas Chainsaw, so there is that as well. Multiple layers of awesomeness on that song's place in this film. Either way, get the fuck out there and check it out. It's definitely on the Full Moon streaming service. I believe it is also on Tubi, so multiple ways to watch it. You will not regret it. I've been Mosley, you've been a bunch of sexy beasts, and this has been yet another episode of that Full Moon Madness, baby. Cheers. Thanks for watching.
The world of Full Moon lives online at fullmoondirect.com. Classics like Puppet Master, Demonic Toys, Subspecies, and more recent favorites Ginger Dead Man, Evil Bong, Killjoy, and more can be found at fullmoondirect.com on DVD, Blu-ray, limited edition box sets, replicas, toys, shirts, and more. Only available at fullmoondirect.com.